Hello, friends. It's TI season, and that means you need a mid-tier list for patch 7.34D because you're just coming back to Dota and want to know what mids to play in your turbo pubs. So let's get into it. Okay, starting with the shit tier, by the way. If you don't want to watch this whole video, I can summarize pretty much every tier list for this entire couple of weeks that are about to happen. Blade Mail Heart. Okay, there you go. Now for everybody that does want the tier list, Dragon Knight. So Dragon Knight, I do actually think that the Manta-style Aghanim Scepter build is pretty good, but that's more of a carry Dragon Knight thing. That's more of a side lane DK thing. I think that's a little bit too slow, a little bit too weird for the mid lane. I also think DK flourishes on patches in the mid lane where there's a lot of like gankers being played in the forward position, you know, your Tusks and Earth Spirits and such, which they're entirely dependent on like ganking weak squishy heroes in that mid lane, and then you pick a DK, you're like, ha, I got you. He's not going to die to that. It's not really a patch for that. Those heroes are good, but for other reasons. Ember Spear. Oh my god, they just keep increasing the cast points on all of his abilities, and he feels like the clunkiest motherfucker to play in the world right now. It's not fun. It was one of the most fun heroes in the game. And not only is it not fun because of the clunkiness, it's also not good because of the clunkiness. It is very easy to catch this guy out now compared to before. Okay, D tier, let's get into it. Shadow Fiend. Well, let me start with Leshrac, because some of these other heroes are going to follow suit with what I'm about to say about Leshrac. So, two items that are very popular right now are Spirit Vessel. There's a lot of universal heroes and non-universal heroes even, since the build-up to Spirit Vessel got changed to include a crown and a fluffy hat. Lots of heroes are building Spirit Vessel. That completely counters Leshrac Bloodstone. And you know what else counters a Leshrac Bloodstone? Blade Mail. And there's an average of like 4 Blade Mails in a game right now, and that might even be too low. So this hero is borderline shit tier. The only reason that he doesn't go into shit tier is because all of his abilities have been so buffed that despite the meta being entirely against him, he's still not that good because he's been buffed so much. If the meta falls off of this Blade Mail Vessel shit, Leshrac might actually shoot up to like A tier at least. Shadow Fiend suffers from a lot of the same bullshit. He is not very good against Blade Mail. I also think that a lot of mid laners will run around with runes and do a lot of ganking right now. You see a lot of like Earthshaker, a lot of Earth Spirit. The heroes that I mentioned that should be ganking the mid lane are actually a lot of the time the heroes that are playing in the mid lane. So, and those heroes, if you're playing against like a mid lane Tuskar or Earthshaker or Earth Spirit or something like that, then one rotation, this hero's dead. SF is not that good. If you do play SF, I think that going for like a magic damage first and then right click to like Dragonlance build is probably the thing that you want to do. Tiny, strength hero, has a lot of good strength gain, best base strength in the game. You'd think that maybe the Blade Mail Heart thing works on him. I don't think that it does, just because he depends so much on getting a Blink Dagger. He depends on getting other items like Echo Saber, Aghanim Scepter, if you want to offer any value aside from like getting a Blade Mail and a Heart. A lot of these other Blade Mail Heart heroes from the mid lane offer value by just being alive. And that's what the Blade Mail Heart lets you do, is you know, be immortal. Tiny, not in a similar situation. Monkey King is D tier, so the heroes that I have, actually I should have the Void Spirit moved over one, but some of these heroes I have a mid tier list I would consider to be like last pick heroes, and you can assume that if they're a last pick hero, then they really belong above one tier. It's just that because they have to be last pick, to me that demotes them a tier. So Monkey King, I would actually say if you can last pick him against some hero that you know you're going to do very well in lane against. Ember Spirit, I know I said the hero's dog shit, but that's the best hero that he counters. Void Spirit, even Primal Beast Monkey King does fairly well against, unless the Primal Beast is good at Dota. So Monkey King can be picked last against some of these melee heroes and do very well, but a lot of the melee heroes have more of an answer to him than they did in the past. So that's why instead of being in like A tier or something like that, he's in B tier. Void Spirit. So they made this hero universal. He was broken, and then they reduced some of the damage on some of his abilities, his ultimate in particular. They also reduced his stat gains, which is very significant for a universal hero. And since then, the hero has kind of fallen off the face of the planet. I also don't think that he does particularly well against all of the heroes that enjoy going for the Blade Mail Heart build in the mid lane, like a Primal or a Kunko will like fuck this hero up big time. Visage, another one of these last pick heroes like Monkey King, where I think you can pick it in a perfect game if people don't have stuff that can like kill the birds, then it's pretty good. But Crimson Guard is a very fine item, especially on these heart builders who are going to have a lot of strength in the offlane, like Centaurs are getting picked up, Axes, heroes like that. Crimson Guard completely nullifies Visage. But like I said, because he's the last pick hero, I would actually consider him to be C tier. If you can get him in last pick, he just belongs in D, because having to last pick him is unfortunate. But Agony Scepter on Visage, still a decent item. You know, Solar Crest, good item in Dota, so he's not that bad. He's just not that good either. It's not really much of a zoo patch. Moving on, ladies and gents, to the C tier. Right there. This is pretty much a tier of heroes that are good against Blade Mail Heart builders, but aren't Blade Mail Heart builders. Generally, at least not yet. I believe after TI they will be. So Death Prophet. This hero loves playing into melee guys because they walk up to the creep wave, they hit creeps, and you suck them. And they run back to their tower, and you get a full duration suck on them. You heal to full, they go to half HP. It's very sad for them. Also, a lot of these melee guys are gankers. Somebody from the support position is going to come mid. They get a +1 to gank and try to kill you. And you turn around, you Spirit Siphon some creeps. You're fine. She's very difficult to gank. I think if Spirit Vessel was not as powerful of an item, or not as popular of an item, maybe Death Prophet would be higher tier. I also think if people were to build the Blade Mail Heart on her and not go for regular Death Prophet items, which I'm generally seeing right now, she might be higher tier. But she did just get buffed. Her ult does more damage, and honestly, ever since they nerfed her after the Guardian Greaves Rush Death Prophet patch a few patches ago, they've been buffing her. So I think she's in a decent state, and I may actually be underrating her. Necropose. So since they changed this hero so that you can Ghost Shroud and BKB at the same time, he has been good. Especially because Nullifier no longer works through debuffing unit. So before, Nullifier would just demolish this hero, and you couldn't use BKB. I mean, even if you could use BKB, Nullifier went through BKB anyway. So you get Nullifier, this hero just did not exist. Now you actually have options against counters, which is amazing. Also, this hero, people are going for Blade Mail Heart on him. And he's very good against the Blade Mail Heart heroes, especially the melee heroes. He dumpsters them in lane for the most part. We'll talk about that later. But a lot of the popular mid laners right now, and this is very important for the tempo of the game, run around and gang. This hero is slow as fuck. He does not do that. So that's Necropose's biggest fault. Despite being good, he's low tier because he does not gang. This hero, Wind Ranger, though, she does actually. She does move around. She's a universal hero, of course. Ever since she was universal, she's been decent. She was very good at the start, and then nerfed, and then decent. They just buffed her stat gains, so that matters a lot for a universal hero, especially when you consider her ults and the scaling and having, 300 fucking damage run for stat items. I think when they nerfed Blightmere so that it no longer took stat components, that's where Wind Ranger fell off. But they just buffed Power Shot, they just buffed her stat gain. She's definitely good, but she does not like playing into Blade Mail. That is her biggest issue right now. If they nerf Blade Mail, Wind Ranger will become probably A or B tier, I would say. Magnus. So they just changed this hero. So Shockwave has the same mana cost the whole way through. Later on in the game, it costs less mana relative to before. I see quite a few people playing Magnus. I think the universal hero build is probably the one that you want to go for on him, which is just like Harpoon into Mantle. I still think that build is perfectly fine. If your lane is difficult, you can just shove out the lane and farm. Honestly, I feel like that is a really good method against a lot of these Blade Mail Heart builders, is you just ignore them and you get super farmed. You empower some Faceless Void or Sven, they get Giga Fat, and then eventually in the late game, you have Satanics and stuff to deal with the Blade Mails and the Hearts and overwhelming damage, so that's a way of playing against that. But, Magnus is not a super active hero. He's a bit weird. He's not been buffed in just enough quite yet to be S tier, despite his playstyle and playing well against the meta right now. Batrider. Honestly, I was going to rate this hero fairly low. I had it in D tier up until like a couple of hours ago, where I saw Mikey is spamming it and he's got like an 80% win rate. I mean, late game Bat, honestly, you still have like a 40-second cooldown on the lasso with the Octarine core. I feel like he can probably be a decent blade mail builder, maybe not hard. If you want to learn how to play Batrider, just look up Mikey's build. He's got an 82% win rate or something stupid like that with this hero. And you can always just go jungle with Max Firefly. That's what most people are doing these days. Omni Knight. I had this hero in higher tier. I think depending on the matchup, he can be really good. There are some heroes that he really shits on. Like in a couple of patches ago when Ember Spirit and Void Spirit weren't dog shit, people were applying this hero into spirits, into the melee spirits in particular, and just dominating with the hammer spam build. Just so much pure damage, and then going for Echo Saber and just beating people down with the Echo Saber build. But with that being said, I think with the meta having changed, Omni Knight's a little too slow for the mid lane. He hasn't dumpstered a lot of the popular heroes as much, but I still think the Echo Saber hammer build is decent. Viper. This hero is the epitome of he fucking dumpsters the blade mail builders mid. He dumpsters melee heroes, but I don't think it's that good of a hero other than that. He's just like the #1 hero for dumpstering the blade mail builders. And Break is good against Spectre, which is very popular, and Gyro, which is still quite popular because it disables his little flak attacks when you get the agony stuff. So Viper is like bad hero, but good in the meta tier. That's kind of where he's at. Razor, I think Razor has been generally good since they changed his passive so that it has the old Agni Shard built in. He's been solid since then. He's a good blade mail heart builder too. People are doing that. I mean, I don't want to say he's a good blade mail heart builder. He's a decent blade mail heart builder. Some of the mid laners that can build these items are like fucking insane. What they do with just these items. So I think Razor's decent at it, but he's like more of a side laner right now. That's how I see Razor, just because you can't be crazy active and then also not like the top heroes right now in the mid lane. And then also, the mid lane is just so small that you don't dumpster a melee hero that goes mid because you're static tanking them. Like, you don't get enough damage, and you don't have enough time by the time they get into the tower to dumpster them, and you're hitting up high ground and stuff, which feels bad. Razor mid has felt bad for a while, but it's bad. Meepo. I actually think Meepo is fairly good. I mean, it's a rough meta for him because I think Wyvern is a good hero. Earthshaker is an extremely good hero. So it's a pretty dog shit meta for him in terms of what's popular and his counters. However, Mega Meepo is very good. He becomes borderline unkillable when he gets that. And then the Dig Agony Shard is also very good. Like, these things let you delay a fight and counter the counters way better than you could before. So I think Meepo's alright. Ricky, I will say that I think the Meteor Hammer into Diffusal build on this hero is extremely good. They just buffed his Smoke Cloud, so it has a way bigger radius. It's quite good. The hero's amazing. It's like, you just have to be able to get the fuck out of laning stage. You just need to get through lane without being completely, utterly worthless. If you can get to the Meteor Hammer and you're level 6, this hero is insane. Just OP. It's just an early game. And it helps that he has one of the highest base regens in the game. I think maybe even the highest base regen in the game. But yeah, that definitely helps. Get past the laning stage, this hero's he gets extra XP when he please, for the life. Speaking of getting something extra, now when he uses Chakra on himself, he gets extra cooldown reduction from that. Which means you can farm giga fast on this guy. Crest is popular, not that people are going for that on the mid lane, but you could if you wanted to. Vessel is a very strong, popular item, good against a lot of the meta because of all the hearts coming out. And Keeper is one of the best vessel builders in the game because the cast range that he gets from his ultimate. But I will also say, I don't think it particularly shits on any of the popular mid laners in lane. That is, it just does fine and it farms. I don't necessarily think it's going to out-farm a lot of them either, but Coddle's decent. If you're a good Coddle player, you can definitely play it right now. B tier. This is actually bigger than the C tier. I just have the heroes small. But yeah, there they are. Dazzle. Dazzle's good. He's very good, and he dumpsters a lot of the melee guys that like to go mid right now, like a Dazzle versus a Kunkka. He should shit on a Kunkka, but it is a hard hero to play. If you can get to the late game, and you understand what his ult does, and you're abusing that cooldown reduction, you can have such insane uptime on all of his shit. I've seen Dazzle do some really fucking annoying things, man. Like, just Blink Dagger. Oh, I'm chasing it. Blink Dagger again, somehow he's blinking again. It's really annoying. But with that being said, he's not a stunner. There's nothing about Dazzle that makes him like a crazy threat in the late game. You know, he's just like an annoying nuisance, but kind of like a mosquito in your room at night. It's like he's not. It's not gonna kill you unless it's malaria. Then well, you got other problems. But it will annoy the shit out of you. So that's what Dazzle's at to me. Is that he doesn't have that oomph that you would like from a hero that's that annoying. Speaking of annoying, this hero's not fucked off for many patches, but Mr. Editor, I think it's gonna be Semper P. You can just put all the nerfs to Pango. I think the rhetoric I saw on Reddit, it's been 8 patches in a row that Pango has been nerfed, and still he is fucking good. And the reason for that is because his ult is just good. It's one of the most objectively teamfight abilities in Dota. And also Swashbuckle is amazing for scaling. He scales, and he's amazing at teamfight. How can you go wrong with this guy? Well, I'll tell you. You can have a meta where Queen of Pain and Kunkka are strong, and well, they are. We'll get to that. Lina, the build on her is Ether Lens into Agony Shard, Agony Scepter, Boots of Travel, and you're just planning to literally one-shot people across the map. It's not that active of a hero. A lot of people, when they play this build, are just sitting mid lane and farming. Carry style mid laners are going for magic damage. That's not hugely popular right now, but still I think this build is so good that sometimes this can be like a trump pick at the end of a draft. Even in the second phase of the draft, this can turn out to be a very good hero. But she is definitely killable. Like, if you catch her out, she's going to be very squishy with this build. Spellcaster Lina. I mean, generally, Lina is fairly squishy. Well, then again, people are going for like DC and BKB and that sort of stuff in Lina's heyday, where she wasn't squishy. And she also has insane talents. But now you're going for all the spellcasting talents. She is squishy, so that's her issue. Maybe after TI, I'll be rating this hero a little bit higher, because I've seen a lot of people play it, but the win rate's not crazy. It's not crazy, but maybe people just suck at it. It's definitely higher skill than it was before. Speaking of high skill, this hero is not that. He's very easy, which is why I like him. So Zeus, people are going for Phylactery, which feels amazing on this hero in terms of damage. Got buffed recently, where now it does max HP as damage. Everybody's used to Zeus doing current HP as damage. He actually has max HP as damage in the ult, which is fucking crazy. And then I also see a lot of people going for the Agony Shard on Zeus. Some people are going for the Manta style build still, and playing to like right-click Zeus, which, hey, I can get behind that. That's cool. You're a Giga Chad. But a lot of people are just going for the Agony Shard simply to farm out on the map without having to use mana, and it's quite good. It's a little bit more boring than doing the Manta style build, but it is good. And then going for normal Zeus items, Octarine, Agony Scepter, Ethereal Blade, that sort of shit. It's a decent hero. It's a good hero, actually. It's not just decent. Outworld Devourer. Oh, Outworld Destroyer. That's actually what he's called. This has been changed a lot of times. Speaking of changes, I bet I can tell you something about OD that you didn't know. And if you do know, then comment below that you're a Giga Chad and you actually knew. This hero, when he ults you, he puts something on you called mana allergy now, which causes you to take 100% damage of whatever the mana cost was of your ability, which is pretty much Pugna Netherlord, then also heals OD. Did you know that? I didn't know that until fucking 2 hours ago. Because I saw the win rate of this guy, and I was like, why is that so high? He is low-key kind of broken. And then also the Agony Scepter, it puts a shield on you relative to your big mana pool, which of course for OD is going to be massive. And that shield is a pure damage shield. So it's genuinely very strong on the late game. I see a lot of people playing OD, going Meteor, Midas, eventual Agony Scepter, and just being extremely tanky. Speaking of extremely tanky, Ogre Magi. This hero is hypothetically the best Blade Mail part builder in Dota. Because Blade Mail, while his strength gain is insanely high, he's super tanky. And then Heart, he doesn't have int. He gains int from strength. So he's the best part builder in Dota. And also Popson. Popson is playing this guy because they just buffed him. I think they gave him extra cast range on something. I believe it was the Fireballs. I don't know. They just buffed this hero. Not that it matters. I really think it's the Blade Mail Heart and the fact that already is probably a decent mid laner and the fact that Popson's playing it. But you still have an Ogre mid then if you pick this hero. So that's why it's B tier, despite old boy Popson playing it. Tinker, fuck this hero. His win rate's very high. And you'd think because it's a Blade Mail patch, well, Tinker doesn't really like playing into that as much. Yeah, that was the old Tinker. That was the old Tinker, the Tinker that had March of the Machines, uncontrollable damage. He can just not press buttons on you. And basically, I think that this hero, if you are good at it, and you can play with the Shiva's Guard once you get it, the Strength Blink and that sort of stuff, he will hit his timings in the current Dota patch. There's not that sick of heroes for like invading Ancients and stuff like that right now. I do feel like it's not that hard to hit your timing. A lot of the melee guys in the mid lane are not going to be super punishing. In the early game where Tinker could be punished, there's a lot of 4 positions that are ranged heroes that are being played, and they're not that sick at ganking Tinker. It's a good patch for him. I will say it's a good patch for him. But then again, if Blade Mail wasn't popular, then probably because yes, his damage is not completely uncontrollable like March of Machines, but still he doesn't like playing into Blade Mail because he does massive amounts of burst damage. So maybe he'd be higher tier if Blade Mail was not popular. Bane! Bane mid. I want to put this hero in A tier, but people are not picking it other than maybe Thompson. But I do think that the hero is like, you just can't lose lane. Evil is nuts. They just reduced the mana cost on it. They increased his base damage. Vessel's a busted item. Bane is a universal hero. Eventually you get an Aghanim Scepter. You grip people every 60 seconds. It's fucking crazy, man. Bane is nuts. He's good. He's A tier. I just put him in B tier because I've been persuaded by professional players and been peer pressured. So don't let that happen, ladies and gentlemen. Templar Assassin. I think this hero's like Tinker, where you pretty much will hit your timings in Dota right now with this hero. Mid-game timings with like a Deso, Blink Dagger, Dragonlance sort of thing. Eventually you pick up an Aghanim Shroud, which I think is the silence from the traps probably needs to be nerfed. That has felt kind of imba for a while. You can sideblades off the traps now, which is really cool for slamming people down with pure damage and finishing them off. T is really good against also a lot of the melee heroes that are being played mid, like the Earth Spirits and the Earth Shakers of the world. But I do think that TA is also an amazing like god tier carry. She's one of the best carries in Dota right now, so it's arguable that she might be just a better carry than mid. Puck. I think Puck does very well against a lot of the difficult to catch heroes in Dota, like the Faceless Voids and the Storm Spirits of the world, which are still fine. And I mean, you press coil on somebody, you get a couple of these like Dark Willow type heroes to rotate in, that these heroes that are being played that offer a lot of damage from the support positions. And like a Puck plus a Warlock, like I realize in terms of ganking that's maybe not that great, but in terms of team fighting, that's fucking amazing. Puck combos very nicely with a lot of the things that are currently in the meta, and I think does fairly fine against a lot of stuff in lane, because worst case scenario, you're just going to push the wave out and go jungle and go pick up runes. And also Puck is like one of the few heroes still building Witchblade, and that feels like a really good item. Late game Puck is also crazy, with like Strength Blinks on Kaya, that sort of thing, Octarine Core. Storm Spirit, this hero has come back into the meta with some of the nerfs to all of the other heroes in Dota in the letter patch. It's one of those things where I don't think any buff in particular brought Storm back. It's like more so the fact that, like, let's say you're playing into a Lina, you're playing into a Zeus, you're playing into a Dazzle, you start questioning what backline assassin can I get, or like an Oracle, for example. These heroes are all decently popular. There's a lot of squishy supports, like I mentioned. Storm is like the best mid laner assassin. Spectre is the best carry assassin in the game, and both of these heroes are popular, and I think there's a pretty good reason for it, because there are a lot of heroes to be assassinated, these squishy backliners. Huskar just got extra Flaming Spears duration, so shoutouts to the one Huskar player that's watching this. Fuck you. But this hero was good before. I think that you just need to know what you're laning against. There are some heroes that will do very well against you. Something like Alina will do well against you. There are other heroes who are completely dumpster, like an Ember Spear, if somebody's dumb enough to pick that hero on this patch. You just need to see what you're laning against. Unfortunately for Huskar, like, I do think he's in a pretty good state. The Ags build is very powerful. Like, that disable in the late game is fucking crazy. You can definitely snowball with it. But a lot of the melee mid laners that you'd normally dumpster actually have ways of playing against Huskar, playing against like any toxic mid laner for that matter, which we will get to in the next tier. So, with that being said, moving on to the A tier, Invoker. He's been nerfed. Here they are. Here's the nerfs. It's a lot of them. But also in another patch, here's the buffs in 7.34D. That's a fucking Harry Potter novel right there, ladies and gentlemen. All you need to know is that he became universal. All of his orbs did different shit. Cold Snap for some reason healed you. His EMP pulls you in with Aghanim Shard for some reason. and also drains more mana for some reason. Vessel got changed to be a universal hero item for some reason, and all of these things made Invoker very busted. And then they nerfed him, they nerfed him, they nerfed him. He fell off a little bit, only a little from S tier, and now he's 8. You can definitely feel the nerfs, but he's still very good. Late game, he's fucking crazy. You will still Cataclysm people, you will still Cold Snap Permastun people, you will still Bolt to 0 people, you will still be able to combo with your EMP. All of those good things still possible. Earth Spirit, he became a mid laner once they changed him so that his W, his roll, makes him immune. You can roll through fucking anything in Dota these days, and also he is a hero that even when Blade Mail was healthy, he was going Blade Mail, because you know why? You get in there, and if the enemy team just doesn't kill you, and the fight lasts a decently long time, you will kill them with Magnetize, because you can just keep dropping rock after rock after rock, and continuing to spam that Magnetize, and all of your abilities are super low cooldown. So with this hero, it's all about prolonging the fight. Hey, you know what's good at prolonging fights and getting the fuck in there? Blade Mail hard. Yes, this is arguably the best, like, practical Blade Mail hard builder in Dota, other than one of the S tier heroes, which we'll get to. Earthshaker, another Earthman. So this hero is a mid lane melee hero dumpster, so it makes him a counter to the melee cancer guys in the mid lane. But also, late game, his Aghanim Scepter is amazing. You are cleaving and like one-shotting creep waves. You are full to zeroing people with 2 enchant totems. Fissure is a very long range, so it's easy to set things up and to stay out of fights if you have to. You get Aghanim card eventually from like a Tormentor, or you pick it up casually. You get extra damage, which is nice. His scaling is amazing. It really feels good to fill up all of his slots. The amount of times as a support that this guy has just flown in and then one-shot me with an enchant totem, it makes me really wish that they removed heroes from Dota, and that was the thing that they did. Speaking of removing heroes from Dota, Lone Druid, when that bear latches onto you, it fucking feels like it will remove you. It's a universal hero now for some reason, which means people are going for Diffusal on him. Like, everybody I see going for Diffusal, Harpoon, and that sort of stuff on the bear is winning. All the people that I see going for Deso, Mask of Madness, they're losing with Lone Druid. Playing it as a abusive universal hero is very powerful, in my opinion. The bear gets so tanky, it does so much damage, it mana burns now, and I've even seen people go for Diffusal on the hero too. Double Diffusal, you're just mana draining the shit out of people, slowing the shit out of people. It's crazy. And Lone Druid also just outlanes pretty much anything in Dota, which is very nice if you are a Lone Druid player, and not very nice if you're not a Lone Druid player. Arc Warden, there he is. They changed his spark rate, so it does extra damage to creeps. And you know what happens to every single hero that they do that with, where they increase the damage of some crit or ability in terms of creeps? They become broken. Arc Warden can now farm. His win rate is very high in pro-level pubs. And to be fair, the win rate was already pretty decent before, ever since they made it. His abilities do different stuff on Dire versus Radiant, which is one of the weirdest changes in Dota, by the way. And then the clone does the opposite. I think the people that understood it were like, dude, this is broken. All the other people were like, I'm not fucking reading this shit, which is fair. But now that he does extra damage to creeps, he farms very quickly, and it is worth picking him. It is worth playing him. People are going for a normal, like, Midas Gleipnir build, and it's good. Also, Thompson is playing it, so everybody else is playing it because of that. Oh boy, I didn't think this hero was going to see the light of day for a while after they nerfed the healing suck build. You are no longer just a mana battery, you are a hero that does a shitload of damage to buildings. They have buffed his Q. I think they've reduced the cooldown on it, they increased the damage of it, maybe twice, I don't remember exactly, but this ability has been buffed a lot, and then they just gave him extra building damage on the Q as well, and you can really feel it in games. And as a mid laner, you're going to be level 7, you're going to have that Q maxed out very quickly, so you can set some insane tempo with this hero. And like I said, the mana battery build got nerfed, but the damage dealing build has not been nerfed. His ult got buffed in terms of the damage, his ult got buffed in terms of the mana cost. Like, the hero is fantastic as a mid laner, in my opinion. S tier. Could you guess an S tier? Well, you don't have to, because let's look at them. Primal Beast. Okay, so I'm pretty sure one player in particular, Malrine, this guy proved to people Primal Mid is fucking crazy. Also Noob from Quest, if you want to look at some replays. Obviously, one of the best Blade Mail hard builders in the entirety of Dota, because he has the highest strength gain in the game. Also, he's like Earth Spirit in the sense that he just gets in there and don't hit him. You're gonna walk around, slamming people down, trampling them down. If they don't kill you, you kill them. His abilities are on a really low cooldown too, so that functions really nicely for staying out on the map with the blade mail, with the heart. For some reason, his ult interrupts Pango roll and just stops it straight up. It's BKB piercing now. It does more damage per slam on the ground, which before they changed that, his win rate was already very high because his ult pierced through BKB. I think that also the Aghanim Scepter, the break, is very powerful against a lot of heroes in Dota right now that need to be broken. PA, Spectre, Gyro, all of these heroes, there's some component to them that needs to be broken. And a lot of the other break heroes in Dota are not that good. Like Viper, for example, is just a dog shit hero. Like I said way before, it's just a good meta for him, but he's a dog shit hero. So Primal Beast does everything you need in a mid laner. He's a blade mail heart builder. And then also, like I mentioned about Malrine and Noob, what these guys do on the mid lane is they cut the wave and they drag it to creep camps. Like, this is a very important reason why this hero is S tier on the mid lane and why the win rate is so high. Because you are farming every single creep wave, and you're also farming jungle camps, and because you're mid, you're too high level for anybody to go deal with you. No hero can really deal with you doing this currently in Dota. It's very strong. Like, I would really recommend checking out some of those replays and watching how those guys do that. Queen of Pain. So essentially what happened to this hero is that the Aghanim Scepter got changed so that you are releasing these Scream of Pains in an AoE whenever Dagger wears off. So people are like, hey, okay, I'm going to go Kaya, Octarine, you know, spam Dagger, go for the Aghanim Scepter. Quinn discovered, like, hey, Kaya first, and then went for the Aghanim Scepter rather than just rushing the Aghanim Scepter. Like, this is good. Like, the build has essentially evolved, and then this Blade Mail heart shit started happening. So now people are going, like, Blade Mail on Queen of Pain early, maybe, like, Blade Mail Sange, and then Aghanim Scepter. Even just Blade Mail and then Aghanim Scepter components, like the HP components to the Aghanim Scepter is really good. She's another hero that gets in there, and you're spamming Dagger, you're spamming her Scream, and because you have the Blade Mail, it means you can go for low points and the Blink and still be able to get in there, and that lets you get past the early game that used to be kind of like okay on Queen of Pain. Now the early game is very good with the Blade Mail build, and the late game is fucking crazy when you get to the eventual, like, Octarine plus Aghanim Scepter. It does so much damage, the constant Scream of Pains. You can't BKB it. Like, BKB doesn't do shit. I mean, 50% of it goes through BKB, and then the BKB wears off eventually, and she likes to take these long fights anyway. And also, both Primal Beast, Queen of Pain, Kunkka, like, all of these heroes in A and S tier are very good at rotating, other than, like, Arc Ward and Roger. Those are two exceptions. But Pugna rotates, gets towers, Invoker rotates, cold snaps somebody, presses Spirit Vessel, Earth Spirit, rolls in. Like, all of these heroes gang and are active, and that's very, very important in the mid lane right now. Kunkka. Another amazing Blade Mail heart builder, because, like these other heroes, his stat gains are very good. He does a lot with no items. With you don't need Blink Dagger or something like that to function with Kunkka. And he has the run buff, so he's taking damage reduction while having the Blade Mail and reflecting 100% and having some damage reduction in there. And then also, one of the main reasons this hero is crazy is because of Torrent Storm. Everybody's going for all the Torrent talents and playing him like a spellcaster, playing him like a tank, which obviously the Blade Mail heart build helps. Like, nobody's going for the Daedalus bullshit anymore on Kunkka. You are a tank, get in there, spellcaster, and now Torrent Storm can be targeted, which means that even if you die, this thing is still going to go off. You can, like, press it on top of, like, a Mars Arena or something like that, or a Chronosphere. You can press it right in the middle of somebody when you've X-torrented them, so on average, you're going to hit them with a bunch of torrents. You can center it perfectly in the team fight, which is amazing. And also an underrated component to why I think this hero feels really good to play right now is the time to, like, pull somebody back with your X. I think they have it. So it feels really quick to just, like, okay, torrent's about to go off, I press my X return button, and then boom. You know, they're shot up into the air. And even if they don't get hit by it, they're still slowed and take damage by the torrent, even if they don't get hit by the stun component, which I also think is underrated. So just generally, this hero has gotten a lot better over the last few patches, and then the meta perfectly suits him. Anyway. Hello, guy that came to the end of the video. Goodbye now. Hello friends, welcome to the mid lane tier list for patch 7.32D. So what mid laners are currently OP in Dota 2? Well, we're going to start with the shitty ones first. The only shit tier mid laner, in my opinion, is Void Spirit. This hero has an abysmal... Hello friends, it's TI season, and that means